welcome to your council preview. I'm Tom Laux. Thank you for joining me on this Marshfield Broadcasting Station. I have Steve Bark sitting next to me on my right, City Administrator, and I have Mayor Lois Teestrake with me on my left. So again, thanks for those guys joining me. I appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Yes, thank you for having us again, Tom.
All right. Well, before we get into the council preview, I'm going to have Steve update us a little bit on what happened in one of our last meetings. It was a couple weeks ago that we had our official budget meeting, I think, last budget meeting, and I just wanted you to give us a little wrap up.
Yeah, well, it was on November 30th, Tom, and the council did vote for a budget. They really had to vote that night because we need the time to get the tax bills ready. And they did vote to cut approximately $800,000 from the budget. That's out of a $24 million general fund budget. And so that's been approved. The tax bills are being prepared and getting ready now. They should be out by around December 15th. And that's our great Christmas card to everybody, I understand. But the increase in taxes from the city's perspective is only about 1%. I guess I haven't heard what the county, school district, and tech college are imposing, but it stayed pretty closely in line here. And that was in part because of the fact that levy limits wouldn't really allow us to go any farther anyway in terms of the tax levy. So now you will hear some changes. There are some things that will affect the public. Other things won't really be visible to the public in terms of what some of those cuts were. We'll post you on that as we go along. And we'll move into a new year and keep working toward fiscal responsibility.
Alrighty. Well, Steve, thank you for that information. Appreciate it. And let's move in. The 13th is the next council meeting. I was here doing the math while you were on camera. And
good job.
Yep. Yeah. It's 6 o'clock. Common Council Chambers. Lois here next to me always encourages public comment. She's there early, and there is a sign-up sheet at the back. And if you have questions, feel free to talk to Lois. She'll be glad to get you on that list or recognize you. If you're not on the list, she'll still recognize you, and you get 5 minutes to really bring up whatever you want. Doesn't have to be on the agenda.
That is correct, and sometimes we like it better that way because it's a little bit of a surprise.
That's right.
Right, Steve? Absolutely. Yes, and we embrace all good things in the city. We are proud to have the citizens that we have here that come and make comments. And even if you don't want to make a comment, send somebody else or send an email, and we can do it for you. Right?
Yep. Very well received to get public comment, and we oftentimes can't answer your questions right then. We'll have somebody get back to you, but we definitely want to hear from people.
Exactly. That's one nice thing that we do here. One of many nice things, I shall say. Well, let's move right into the budget here. I have budget on my head.
No, it's okay.
I don't know why.
It's dominated the agenda for the past 2 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't mean budget, but I meant our council meeting, the agenda here. Right. So I'm actually going to talk to Lois here first, and we'll probably go to you a little bit, Steve, about this. The 2022 Central Wisconsin, there's going to be a report by Dale Christensen. He is our executive director. But tell me the importance of this this event.
The event takes place, of course, in Marshfield, Central Wisconsin State Fair. How great is that? When we've had War of this Crown for many years, and it just keeps going. It went off again without a hitch this year. Not really true. We had a couple days of rain, but I think the public still wants and needs this. And it's exciting that it is still happening in Marshfield. I mean, we are a very lucky community because we have this right here in our back door. Well, actually, some people, it's their front door. Now the 17th Street being done.
Right.
And it is absolutely fabulous. We are, again, so happy, Dale. Thank you and your team for what you've done, what you do, and what you will do. And remember, if you need help, don't forget to reach out because there's a lot of great community members. I bet you that would love to be on some of your committees and just help out.
Alrighty. Well, yes, Dale does a lot of work over there, and we get him here a couple times a year and talk to our viewers at times. But Steve, how did Dale get on? Is this something that you do? Dale contacts you? I guess, sometimes we do have presentations that are not city officials.
Yeah, well, in this case, it was actually requested under items for future agendas by, I think it was Tom Witzel maybe, and we've had a couple of others. But usually we try to have Dale and maybe someone from the college, UW come over, and people like that to give a report. How's the year going? How did it go? What are the good things? What are the bad things? What are the upcoming challenges that you're facing? In this case, I've said, Tom, that I've asked Dale to do two things. Number one, a broad recap. What went well, what didn't go well, what do you need to adjust next year to make it even better? And then number two, a financial report. can you lay it out as best you can, how you did financially in terms of revenues and expenses and how things are looking fiscally going forward. So Dale will be giving a report on both of those things on Tuesday night.
All right, well, let's move into an approval of resolution, and these numbers probably don't mean a lot to the public, 2022-49, continuing appropriations, but I'm going to have Steve explain that because just saying that I wouldn't understand what it is.
Yeah, what I really want the public to know from this, Tom, is, sometimes people wonder, you hear about government, and you're getting into November and December, and people are like, okay, what happens if we haven't spent our money? Well, they're just going to carry it forward and use it next year. That's not how it works, okay? So when you have a budget for the year in your department, the only way you're allowed to carry money from 2022 to 2023 is if it was something that was specified to be done. You couldn't get to it for some reason. Maybe the product wasn't available. Maybe the cost was way too high and you're hoping to buy it the next year. But you can't just say, well, we have $100,000 not spent. We just want to use it in 2023. So what you have on the list are 3 things for carryover this year. The first is EBS. That's our business software. It's our new system for accounting and finance that Eng Ung, our technology director, has been working on for quite a while with our finance staff and others. So we're still going through the final pieces of that software conversion. So we're carrying $60,000 over for that. About $10,000 related to training. We have MEUW doing our training for the parks, the streets, the wastewater, all the different departments as far as the right equipment, the right procedures out there, making sure people aren't getting hurt, trying to minimize workers' comp claims and those kind of injuries. So we have some money that we need to carry over for purposes that way. And then finally, library operations. That's an ongoing fund that we really can't close out. From year to year, if they don't spend the money in that fund, it does automatically carry over, but we put it on the resolution anyway. So it's about $200,000, actually $262,000 total this year. But I guess I want people to know how we do things here, that we're very prudent about not just kind of, keep rolling it down the hill. We'll keep accumulating some money here. We don't do things like that. It automatically lapses back into the general fund if you don't spend it or if you don't have a designated specific reason for carrying it forward.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Insurance premiums you have highlighted here. We have to have insurance just like personal people need to. Everyone needs insurance.
Yeah, and again, the reason I want to highlight this for a minute, if I can, Tom, is that it continues to go up. It's going up about 4% this year, from $788,000 to about $822,000. And I want to highlight one of the new areas that's costing us money, and that's called cybersecurity. And I think people are hearing more about this on TV and in the news, that communities, actually cities and villages, are getting hit with attacks, and people are holding them for ransom, so to speak. Well, we won't fix your computer system until you pay us money. And we're trying very hard to prohibit or prevent viruses and all the things that really bring us down and could bring the system down. So that's going to almost double this year over last year. But again, just want people to know that we're trying to do our best to hold down claims. We're trying to do our best to hold down costs. But we do have to spend a little more than $800,000 on a variety of property and liability insurance policies.
Is that through one company, Steve, or several?
It's basically through one. We get ours through the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and we work with Spectrum Insurance. Interestingly enough, there's going to be a conversation at this next meeting we're going to talk about where Councilmember O'Reilly wants to talk about, well, do local companies get a chance to bid on this? And we'll talk about that when we get there, but we do want local vendors, local businesses to get a chance to have business with the city whenever possible. And we'll touch on that a little later in the agenda.
Yeah, I was just looking at your memorandum that will probably be going in our packet tomorrow.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, look at that, 60% change in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a big area.
So that's the change right there.
There have been Wisconsin cities that have been hit by this, and I can't think of the names of which ones they are, but where they've literally had their systems go down because somebody attacked them from the outside, and it's potentially devastating. You need to be insured.
Yep, different world that we live in than it was 10 years ago.
It is.
All right, let's move on to refilling Public Works Director position. Dan Knecht put in his retirement.
Yeah, I'll start, and then maybe Lois wants to comment. We have great employees at the city of Marshfield, and but then people move on sometimes. They retire, they resign. Dan Knecht is going to be retiring from his position as Public Works Director. He's been there 25 years, which is pretty impressive. And he's been more than just a person doing that job. He's been a real important part of the city as a whole. I mean, working with other department heads, the jobs that he does, the departments he interacts with, not to mention just being a class individual. top rate person to work with. So he will be badly missed. He's giving us a little bit of lead time. He's telling us he's going to leave in mid-March. So he's given about 3.5 months to prepare to find a replacement. But I know that Lois will agree with me. You've been here less than a year, but Dan will be greatly missed.
Absolutely. I spoke to him this morning and I told him, Dan, we lived in Marshall, my husband and I, for 30-some years, and you have helped us with situations and other individuals. We're going to miss that extra care that you bring to the city. And yes, I've only been in the position 8 months, but knowing Dan, again, as long as I have, he will be sadly missed, sorely missed. He's been to 2 meetings already where, one guy couldn't even bring the comment out. He said, let someone else talk about it because I can't. Yeah, a little bit of tears. And again, Dan will be missed very much. He's definitely a class act all the way along, yes. And it's helped so many people, as Steve said, not just his job, but other jobs. And he's not afraid to step up. He's a problem solver, and he definitely has solved a lot of problems.
Well, and I really appreciate him because I'm an extrovert, and extroverts tend to think out loud. We start talking, we work our way through it. Dan will be at a meeting and he'll be quiet for half an hour or more, but he's very thoughtful, and he'll say, you know what, I think I see what we need to do. Or what problem are we trying to take care of? I'm not sure I even get the problem yet. And take us back a step and help us to get to a better idea. And I definitely will be missing that.
Most definitely. So. That is very true, Steve, as I've been here for almost 4 years, and that is really a really good piece. I can't think of the words to put in of Dan to have.
It is.
It makes, when we're in our meetings, it really does make a difference. So
yep.
You need that. You need different brainstorming, different ways of how people work. That's the whole part of it. So,
right. So the goal is to get approval from the council. We won't start looking right away. We'll probably wait till right after January 1st because people aren't looking for a job in Christmas time. So, but then we'll try and find a replacement to fill those big shoes.
All right. So that was moved on by finance, and it goes in. Will that be separated from the consent?
No, that'll be under consent. It was added at the last minute to consent.
Oh, right here, consent. I just need to look at it here.
Yep.
All right, another piece in here, and this has been kind of talked about quite a bit in past, especially with some of the hazardous materials out there. But this is foam that was used to put out fires. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
What's that about?
Well, you can no longer use that type of foam anymore. The big thing that's really going on right now, and maybe not all of our viewers are aware of it, it's called PFAS. And PFAS is in a lot of things. It's not just in foam used by the fire department, but it's in all sorts of, I think, cleaning materials. It's in clothing to some degree, whatever. But there's a lot of it that is in this Class A foam that they use. I believe it's Class A foam. Class B foam, I'm sorry. Anyway, we need to dispose of it. And the state of Wisconsin's been helpful in terms of trying to help fund some of these types of activities. But we also, want to get rid of a couple of items that have been used in the past that are contaminated and get new ways of housing this new material that we're going to have. So the cost of this is estimated to be about $60,000 to $70,000 to get rid of our Class B foam and other expenses. But working with utilities, what we can do is they would be willing. It's really their property, so to speak. They'd be willing to cover the cost in reimbursement to us for $53,000, and that will help us to pay for this. So we needed a budget resolution to move the monies to actually expend the dollars, but we will be recouping a fair amount of this. But again, it's all in public safety interest. It's all in the need of trying to get beyond the contaminants of PFAS, and so our goal is, again, to replace or dispose of these items and replace those totes because they are, in fact, contaminated. All
right. Otherwise, our wastewater treatment plant would get some of it as well.
Correct. Yeah, and they're going to be talking about PFAS anyway. But you're right. It's the new thing that followed behind the whole issue with phosphorus. We're like, what do we do with phosphorus? Well, I think we're getting our arms around how to handle phosphorus a little bit better. And our treatment plant, our wastewater treatment, has been outstanding at phosphorus. But now the big one's going to be PFAS for a while, and we're all struggling with what to do and how to pay for it. This is something we need to do as part of the process.
Okay. Another piece here that we're going to talk about that relates to fire department is bonfires. These aren't your average bonfire that you have on a Saturday night. This is a bigger bonfire, maybe like a school, right, that would have their homecoming.
Yeah, and I'm going to have Lois comment at the end of my remarks here, because the purpose of this is the bigger bonfires. It's not, that Tom goes into his backyard and takes out one of those Fleet Farm or Menards little ones and puts it out there and sits around with his family. This is the bigger ones that you see for large events, school district and other things. And we're not trying to take away from the fun. Those are some of the things that make a community a community. To have those Friday night activities or Saturday night as part of a community celebration, maybe a big school victory party or whatever. But it's about safety. It's about, on those larger ones, we want to be able to dictate, okay, who's in charge, what provisions have been made in case things go wrong, all those kind of things need to be put in place. And that's the purpose of this. But community festivals and community activities are so important.
Yes, they are, and that's what just keeps us going. It just keeps a positive spin on, like you said, with the kids in the bonfires. And I'm glad they're stepping up and helping with this. If nothing else, just for safety reasons. That is the biggest thing that we are concerned about. And with the fire department, very concerned about. As Steve had said, they want you to have one person in the crowd that is kind of the overseer, and then move on from there. And so far, we've been lucky enough not to have any of these issues. There was one down in central Wisconsin where 60 people ended up going to the hospital because of what happened there. So this helped us step up. So when bad things happen, good things come out of them.
True, and oftentimes our fire department doesn't really know what's going on unless they have a plan that's been given to them, and even a site map, given to them, so they know how big is it going to be,
Correct.
How close is it to the nearest structure, and for the reason that Lois said. I mean, think about a great activity, a fun recreational event, and it's totally marred by the fact that somebody's injured or potentially worse, and we just don't want that to happen.
Exactly. All right, we'll see what that's about. Deputy Chief Everett Mueller
Yep.
will be on hand that night, and we'll hear from him. Let's talk about a appointment to boards and commissions. What? It's about a ordinance. It is a second reading, so there's
how
a
many?
vote.
I'm going to bring this to Lois. How many weeks have we been talking about?
Way too many. Honestly, I'm guessing at least 2 months,
Yeah.
4 meetings worth. Yes,
You're right.
But we need to come to the correct resolve to
And-
move this forward.
Yeah.
So it actually isn't a bad thing that we're talking about it again, because this is showing the public that we actually are putting a handle on it and making the right decisions. And we would love it if people would come forth and why not help with it?
Right.
Right?
Right. And we really want people to be part of our committees and boards and commissions. So it's not, don't if you've been watching these meetings, don't think, oh, wait, I don't want to go into that water. They're talking about that every week. They won't want me. It's all about the fact that we normally want them to be people who live in the community within our city limits, but there are times when it really is helpful for us to get somebody even who lives outside of the city if they're experienced. Maybe they know a lot about park and recreation, or they know a lot about finance, or they know a lot about historic buildings, and they can lend something good to the committee. So we had to kind of talk about when is the right time.
Correct.
How many people from outside of the community could be on a committee, and what are the expectations? Because you want to be following rules that everybody understands. I think we've come to a good place finally, and I do think when this is approved that we won't talk about this for a little while.
I think you're correct.
I think the mayor is hoping that that's the case
Yes,
too.
yes,
But
absolutely.
it's been thoughtful, and the city attorney's been involved throughout the way. We'll get it done.
All righty. If someone has questions or wants to be on a board or a committee or a commission, who's the best to contact? Is it the city clerk's office? Is it the mayor's office? Where do they go?
They could call any of the three, the mayor or me or the city clerk. I think, probably best the clerk or me as city administrator, only because the mayor is only there, part of the time. Jessica and I are there full time. But we'll walk you through it. We'll talk to you about what's out there. And again, for anybody tuned in right now, there are like 24 probably committees, boards, and commissions. Whatever your interest is about parks, it's about anything. We've probably got a committee or board for you to weigh in and be part of what we do here. So feel free to give us a call anytime, and we'll talk about what committees are available and what you need to do if you want to be considered for one of them.
Well, there's another nice thing because our website kind of gives you a little bit of
Does.
overview. One of a constituent I called about interest in one of the committees, and I basically asked her to go through and read through 3 or 4 that she thought she was interested in. She came back with the one that she was a home run, which worked out really well for her and for us. So we'll see what happens in April, because that's the next time when we need to bring new folks on board. So please don't be afraid to join. Actually, you learn more about the city, and for the most part, I don't want to say it's fun, but it
It
really
is fun.
is, because there's a lot of things that I've learned in the last 8 months that I never would have expected. They do that. Wow. And I can actually help to make this happen?
Yeah.
How great is that?
Wonderful. And Tom, can I divert us for a quick second?
Yeah, please.
Because it really, it's a good way to get your feet wet if you're thinking about one day maybe running for council. And that dovetails right into the fact that we are in the filing process right now for the even-numbered council seats, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And the representatives in 2, 6, and 10, Nick Paschal, Tom Witzel, and Pete Hendler, have filed forms saying that they're not going to run this time around. So we know that at least 3 of them don't even have an incumbent if you're considering running for council. The other 2, I believe those 2 are running, Brian Varsho and Rebecca Spiros. I don't know for sure. But being on a committee or a board or a commission is a great way to find out, is city government for me? And maybe someday you'll find that it is, and you want to be, sitting up front with Lois and others when those meetings are being held. But at the very least, to be contributing to your community in a meaningful way.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that information,
Yep.
Steve, and Lois as well. You get to do a big part of it because you seek a lot of these people out on these committees.
Correct.
A lot of it. So,
Yes.
excuse me. Standing committee is a little different how that works because
Correct.
that's
Oh,
to do with the council
Council
itself.
members, right.
Right.
But there is tons of committee, even like our communications committee. If we get somebody that comes up or someone resigns, actually, if they resign right away, we do have to fill it up before the actual date is done. So that could be an ongoing process, which
Correct.
you've already been part of.
Yes, I have. 2 weeks in, I had to get
Yep.
22 people. And you know what, everyone? I was proud to say that it happened. And how great. If I can do it, anybody can.
Well, and don't wait. Lois has a very tough job. So if you're interested in being on one of our committees, you think, well, not till April till they make that decision.
Right.
Give us an email
call.
or a letter now.
Right.
Then Lois can look at it. It'll help her prepare. And when that time comes in April, if there is an opening on that committee,
Correct.
and Lois does a fine job with that, but you don't want her to be have 3 days to make all those
Don't do
appointments.
it on March 30th, please. I beg you.
Please, please.
All righty, let's move on to the next topic. And you're already talking about CIP, if people don't know what that is, capital improvement projects. Those are large projects like a 17th Street construction. Would that be a CIP?
They are.
Yeah.
Now let me demonstrate how things happen in finances at City Hall. The budget process ends. Oh, we got a long break. No, we don't.
Nope. We're
Because
right back.
the capital improvement plan is our program is our number 2 financial document. Now this is not a finite or a fixed document like the budget, but it's more of a fluid document. And but it's in the next 5 years, how do we intend to spend money on the larger projects? And where's that money coming from? Is it coming from borrowing? Is it coming from grants? Is it coming from where is it coming to do this? Room tax money? So I've given you both the one from last year, and of course we'll be updating this plan, but you see in the financing sources, ARPA was involved because that came from the federal government, Economic Development Fund, fees, room tax money, borrowing. So for the next 5 years, we're going to talk about what are the projects we want to do, and these are bigger projects with longer term impact. Typically streets probably make up about 75%, but there's also major park improvements, building facility upgrades, those kind of things. We usually borrow about $4 million a year because that's usually about what we pay back in principal and interest on existing debt. And it'll start with in January, Tom, with the department heads putting their requests in. And by the time we get to March, we'll be at staff level kind of pulling it together. And then in the spring, we'll bring it to the council. We'll walk through it with them and find out what they have an appetite for and what projects they think are the most important. So what's going to happen on Tuesday night is that the council is going to be getting an update from Dan Connect. Here's what we did last year. Here's what the 5-year plan looks like now. Do you know of any other projects that aren't on there that you think ought to be moved up? Maybe there's a street that isn't on here, but one of the council members or Lois will be thinking, you know what, that's not been wearing very well the last couple of years. Maybe that road needs to be put on that 5-year plan for major improvement. So it'll be the kickoff to the CIP process.
All right, so this is what we're looking at here, and our viewers don't see this at the moment, is the 2023 through 27.
Correct.
We do this every year. This was already approved by the council earlier this year.
Yep.
We're now talking about 2024, 2028. Some of this stuff moves forward. One question I have for you, Steve, is you were talking about funding.
Right.
There's multiple funding sources in
Correct.
the CIP, right? Even the
Correct.
general fund? Partially?
Yeah, a little bit. Small piece comes from the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah. The biggest piece is borrowing, but you know it makes sense because the biggest piece of the plan is road work. And you know when you rebuild a road or you do a mill in place project that's going to last for quite a few years, it makes sense. If the improvement's going to last 25 years, borrowing makes sense. If you're doing something that's going to last 2 years, well, you're not going to borrow. And that's why a lot of the things that come up on here are borrowing items because they have longer term life expectancy.
And borrowing means that we really need to have a really good credit. Is that correct?
It does, and we're hopeful that our bond rating will move up from from an A1 to a AA3 in the next couple of years. We've been making strides to improve our finances,
Yes, absolutely.
and you know I think the latest budget will help that as well. And Jennifer Selensky has been doing a great job as our finance director. So hopefully we'll get that rating improved, and that gets us a better interest rate and more people bidding on our bonds.
We did get a good one this year, though, I thought. That was,
We got the negative outlook removed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand what negative outlook means, but when you're looking to bid on the city's bonds, do I think they're a good credit risk? They have an A1 rating, negative outlook. It sounds like if they go any direction, they're going to go down from here. And we convinced Moody's to take that label off. That by itself is very helpful.
All right. Well, good. Well, we'll know more about that once we figure out how much we're going to borrow.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Well, we're in the preliminary stages. It has nothing to do with going over all these things on that date. It's just a high level from Dan is what we'll be hearing on next Tuesday. All right. Oh, let's talk about the city's property and liability insurance. That's another one.
Well, again, this was brought up by Councilmember O'Reilly, and it ties back to the earlier item where we've been using the league insurance for a long, long time, certainly the whole time I've been here. And so he's bringing up the point, and the reason I wanted to talk about this today, Tom, with you and the mayor is because a lot of our local businesses want to see us use them as much as possible. I mean, you want to buy a lot. We tell people all the time, shop local.
Correct.
So, you know, Jennifer Selensky is going to provide a report as to why we've historically used the league in terms of what they provide, the service, the cost, and the competitiveness, and the fact that they're very thorough. So even if the council decides, well, you know what, we're satisfied with the way we're doing it, let's keep doing it that way, it's always a good reminder that, well, what about other services? Are we looking to buy local for other products and other types of things that we look for? And I think we want the public to know that we do that where we can. And you know, we want to be making the local economy, or keeping the local economy strong.
Yes, most definitely. I think
So-
that's really important. So, well, we'll see what that comes out in that discussion and kind of go from there. All right. Well, it is almost Christmas and New Year's. That means we do change up the agenda after this council meeting. Is that right? Do you have those at all, or is that not going to happen? Like the days. Usually, I thought we kind of do a big smorgasbord, as you call it.
There's the 20th, a week from Tuesday. We'll have JL, as we call it, Judiciary and License, followed by Finance, Budget, and Personnel, followed by Council, followed by Plan Commission. And you know, what's really funny when you go through this, and this will be your first time going through this, Lois, is because those meetings happen right before the council meeting, we have to read the minutes into the meeting.
Absolutely.
You've been part of that before.
Yes.
And I've always joked to our staff that we ought to read it like 'twas the night before Christmas. And they never want to do that.
No, they don't.
Twas the night before Christmas, and the Board of Public Works talked about the sidewalks. But a lot of things happen in one night, so since it's not on the agenda, we've got to read the minutes in so that they know what they're approving. But it all happens 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, in very short order. And then we won't have a public meeting until after New Year's.
Yeah. See, that's the difference between some municipalities. I don't know how you did it in Ripon in your time, but everyone knows pretty much I came from Rapids, and the minutes were read. All the standing committees
all the
were
time.
read all the time. There was there was no consent agenda, but the county I think did something even different. Everyone does a little bit different.
Right.
This works out pretty good. You know, otherwise it
Absolutely.
feels like you're reading something.
Yeah, true.
Right.
You're just reading.
True.
You know, so I think this works out well, Steve. So.
It does, and I'm very glad that the council, ever since before I came here, has had the second meeting in December before the holiday, because I mean, not many people would want to get together on
Correct.
December 27th or December 28th, and it gives everybody a nice 2-week break until the next council meeting or the next city meetings
City
at all.
meeting, correct.
Yeah, it'll actually be I think 3 weeks between
Yes.
council meetings, but even the Board of Public Works and Finance won't meet until after January 1st.
Correct.
Well, it's hard to do the business because there's so much business that has to be done before we meet. I mean, these agendas
Correct.
and all this stuff has to be compiled. And not only staff has to be involved, you may have to get ahead of some other people, and that's you and the clerk and department heads. If
Correct.
they're not here, that it's not going.
Correct.
So-
And let me put in a plug too for people who come to our building that on Monday, December 26th and Monday, January 2nd, we will be closed. Both of the holidays this year fall on Sundays,
Sunday.
so the employees will get off the following Monday, one day after Christmas and one day after New Year's during that period.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. Anything else, Lois, that you have to say?
Just hope to see some of you at the meeting on Tuesday. I would love it.
It's great
Yeah.
that they come out. I enjoy when
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you don't want to be just talking to nobody out there.
That's right,
You know,
that's right.
We have a nice council chambers. Let's pack it full.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to thank everybody, people who give input year long. You're going to be trying to get more input from the public
Yeah.
through new engagements and new platforms. And we want to hear from people. Lois is all about hearing from people too. So in 2023, let's get even more, emailing, coming to council meetings, whatever. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to see happen. You are the community and we want to hear from you.
Alrighty. Well, we'll end on that note, Steve. Thanks again for everybody tuning in to our council preview program. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the 13th live, 6 o'clock. We'll be on air. We'll be streaming. You name it, we're there. Or come in person, as Lois states. We're glad to have you there. Thanks for joining us.